want to promote your business? Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Afrique Today. Fogham, where you can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Afrique Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.afriquetoday.com. Afrique Today, the best of digital TV.
You can't miss this high-level pro-Africa USA-tied forum, Trade, Investment and Economic Development, which is the first in a series of high-level events on Afro-Cosmo mutual voices, shared knowledge and dialogue on substantive, innovative and practical solutions to current and emerging trade, investment and economic development issues in Africa and beyond. This event is hosted by Afro-Cosmo Development Impact LCC, Maryland, Squire Patton Boggs, LLP, Washington DC and Afrique Today Digital TV, a 2-time Quality Service Award winner. You can then state our full name and title and company with location, then also state day of event, etc. Theme: incentivization, formalization and productivity of small and medium enterprises in Africa. COVID-19 and 2019 African Continental Free Trade Area. Moderator: Prudence Sebehizi, Chief Technical Advisor and Head of AFCFTA Negotiations Support Unit, Department of Trade and Industry, Commission, Ethiopia. Co-moderator: Valentina Okaru Bisant, Professor Esquire, CEO Afro-Cosmo Development Impact, LLC, Maryland, USA. Co-host: Frank Samolis, Esquire, Global Trade Partner and Co-Chair, Squire Patton Boggs, Washington, D.C., USA. Co-host. Featured speakers: Armando Manuel, the World Bank Executive Director, South Africa, Nigeria and Angola, and Washington, D.C. Matthew Gamza, CEO, SME Finance Forum International Finance Corporation, Washington, D.C. Mrs. Priscilla Ekweme Eleke, former, retired as of December 2019, and first Director of Currency Operations in the Central Bank of Nigeria. Mrs. Ifeoma Anagbogu, HE Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, Nigeria. Betty Oluwasina, MD and CEO, Capstone Microfinance Bank, MD, presenter, and Antonia Abeya, member of the Board of Directors of Capstone Microfinance Bank, attendee. Adeniki Adeyemi, Executive Director, Fate Foundation, Lagos, Nigeria. Rosemary Mburu, CEO, Institute of Trade Development, ITD, Kenya. Professor Ernest Ojukwu, Esquire, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Femi Oyedipe, Chief Executive, Lush Chocolate, Lagos, Nigeria. Vivian Chaplin, Esquire, Director, Corporate and Commercial Practice, Cliff Decker Hofmeyer, South Africa. BioLion Adedeki, MBA, Founder and CEO, Dundonation, Nigeria. Dr. Salifu N. Bishop, President and CEO, Vision Global, Inc., Maryland, USA. Koi Edu, Esquire, Managing Partner, Jackson, Eti and Edu, Nigeria. This event will be live on Afrique Today TV. Afrique Today, the best of digital TV.
Do you want to promote your business? Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Afrique Today. Fogham, where you can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Afrique Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.afriquetoday.com. Afrique Today, the best of digital TV.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the African Diaspora Grassroots voting on Afrique Today, the #1 digital channel out of Washington, D.C. I am your host, Busi Matsiko, and then live from our studio in New York City. Today we're going to discuss everything regarding the leading up to the U.S. elections 2020. We're going to have an amazing guest who has been involved in campaigns and all that lovely stuff. Did you know we are on 4 different platforms? We are on afriquetoday.com, we are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, as well as Twitter, and we are also on Smart TV. Did you know that? Well, we are. Stay tuned. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the African Diaspora Grassroots voting on Afrique Today, the leading digital TV station out of Washington, D.C. Today we have an amazing guest, special guest. His name is David Nyonyintono Zikusoka. He is a CSBA fellow and a former senior staff with Vice President Joe Biden. Welcome, David.
Hi, Lucy. It's great to be here.
Hi, it's amazing to see you. And David, I just want you to tell us more about your career, your background, a little bit about your heritage as well as your career background. I don't want to go into your bio by myself. I would love you to tell us about your path.
Sure. So, I was born and raised in New Jersey. My parents are immigrants that came over from Uganda in the late 1970s, and they settled down in New Jersey. And my sister and I were both born and raised there. When I finished college, I was fortunate enough to get a job working in politics. My first paying job out of college was working for Barack Obama's campaign for the presidency. I started on his team in 2007 in April, and it's just been a real adventure ever since then. I was fortunate enough after the campaign to work at the White House in the office of Vice President Joe Biden on his national security team. I worked at the Pentagon, the Department of Defense. Following the end of the administration, I did some additional work at the Department of Defense on a couple of different issues. And then I went off to graduate school, finished up graduate school in 2019. Thank you. Finished up graduate school in 2019, and I'm back in DC, and I work at a think tank where I do research on defense policy, mostly on space and cyberspace.
Wow, that's an amazing background. I just felt that you would be a great person to inspire somebody who's thinking about what career to take, because in many African communities, there have been the traditional subjects careers you should take. Either you become an engineer, you become a lawyer, you become a doctor, or you're nothing. Or maybe an accountant, or you're nothing.
Yeah.
And so for you going through that, you studied political science. And did you, that's what you,
so I studied history of international relations, which involves a lot of political science. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
And it was definitely a non-traditional route. My older sister is a doctor, so that was a much more straightforward pitch to make to my parents when she decided to be a doctor. When I came home from college after freshman year and said I wanted to major in history, I definitely got a funny look from my parents, and they were like, "Were you going to be a historian?" I was like, "I don't think so. I don't know. I'll figure it out." But it's been great to have their support to take this kind of non-traditional route. And to everyone out there, I hope that they think about all of the different ways that we're able to have an impact on our society with these sorts of careers.
And the key was you just made sure you did what you do very well. And this takes me
Yes.
to the issue of volunteerism. You volunteered with the Barack Obama campaign when he was still Senator Obama. And I remember you going all the way to Ohio. And so tell us more about the importance of being volunteering, as well as, because there's a myth with sometimes with diasporan communities, why are you not getting paid? And yet sometimes that could be your opening for an opportunity that could impact your career as well as lives ahead.
Sure. Well, so I did do some work for free when I was living in Washington, D.C. I was working at some think tanks for free. I was fortunate to get paid when I joined the campaign, although when you start out at that level, that's mostly just money to pay for food and rent, and you end up being very transient. And you're right, I was able to live and work in all sorts of different parts of the country that I'd never been to before. Spent time in South Carolina, spent time in Wisconsin, spent a little bit of time in Indiana, made some trips to Iowa, made some trips to Texas during that time. And it was a great way to not only see more of the country, but to get a better understanding of the things that concern American families and the things that concern everyday people. And it's true, though, this sort of work, you don't really do it for the money. This is not the sort of work where you get famous. This is not the sort of work where you get paid a lot of money. You do this work because you want to serve your fellow Americans, because you see things that are wrong, you see things that aren't right, that you want to try to make better.
Wonderful. I mean, that's very inspiring, and you should be proud of yourself for touching people's lives. And and I mean, I've been watching you and seeing these transitions, and to be honest, it's really inspiring that you're first generation American and you have forged the path, the untrodden path, and you've been recognized for this too. And I believe for me, I believe this segment is also to inspire that young woman or man out there, that teenager out there who's thinking of what they want to do, whether they want to go into politics or whether they want to run for office. I think you're an example of, you're a testament to that, And so what has changed since when you were in office over the years, now that you're a research fellow in aerospace studies at the Center for Strategic and Budgetary Assessments? Have you?
Yeah, so it's definitely different, to start my career in government at this sort of level. I was very fortunate, very lucky, and it's definitely different being on the outside. Our think tank is an organization where we try to have a positive effect on policy. We're very interested in finding ways to make sure that the Department of Defense are good stewards of the taxpayer dollar, that the Department of Defense is making the right decisions in terms of the concepts and the operations and the things that it requires to get the most bang for the buck and to make sure that the nation remains secure. So it's great to still be in a perch where I'm still able to be part of the broader conversation going on in Washington. At the same time, it's very different. My hours are very different from how they used to be when I was working at the White House.
Are they shorter or longer hours?
For the most part, they're shorter, which is good. And one thing about the White House is that you're always dealing with various crises and trying to put out fires. And being at this think tank gives me a chance to think about medium and long-term problems, over longer time horizons. So as opposed to dealing, with the latest issue in the Middle East or Europe or Asia or what have you, those sorts of things that pop up on TV, we spend our time thinking about future problems, future issues over longer time horizons, out to 10 years and beyond. So it's been very fulfilling work.
Well, that's interesting. So have you hung up your campaign gloves? I mean, helping with campaigns. Are you involved with the Biden campaign now that he's running for office? What's your level of involvement at the moment?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm not directly involved in the campaign as an employee, but a lot of the former staff for Biden, we have a lot of great memories of our time working for him, and so you're always part of the Biden family for life. So I have been doing some volunteering for the campaign, and it's a nice way to stay involved with the public policy issues that I care about, particularly the ones that fall outside the issues that I cover at my job. So it's been great to stay involved there. Some volunteering, phone calls, fundraising, those sorts of things. And also, these are the sorts of things that anyone can do. There's all sorts of stuff for political campaigns across the spectrum, from the local level to the state level to the national level. Because of technology, it's so easy to get involved now by signing up on the website for the candidates that you're interested in.
Wonderful. And right now, are you more or less bipartisan, or you're allowed to be affiliated with a particular candidate now that you're working with a think tank? How is that?
So the work that I do for my think tank and our mission in general at the think tank is nonpartisan. On my own free time, of course, I'm able to engage in politics. So
there's no conflict of interests.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, wonderful. I mean, now that you've brought me into this campaign stuff, what was it like working for Vice President Biden, and do you think he's the best candidate? Why do you think he's the best candidate for office?
Sure. Well, unfortunately, I'm sorry. I'm not able to really make those sorts of comments per se. I try to stay out of it, at least in the public sphere. But I'll at least note that my time working for Biden was incredible. That's where I, working for him in his office is where I grew up, and became a real adult and learned the ways of the world, and got to be a witness to so much incredible history, and to watch his leadership and to watch President Obama's leadership in action. And it's a thing that I'll appreciate and cherish for the rest of my life.
Yes, and there was an article in the New York Times. I think there was a picture of you that was captured in the New York Times, where it's like an iconic photo. What did that feel like?
So that was 2013. The government has been shut down for 16 days, and that was the first day back at work. And so the gentleman standing on the right is Dennis McDonough, who I've been fortunate to know for years, since the campaign days. And he stood out there on the day that we were allowed to return to work, and he shook every one of our hands on the way, and it was really something.
Okay. Yes, I mean, in the second half of this, we're going to talk about how you think we can get involved. I mean, people can get involved with campaigns and recommendations. We'll go into all that stuff. I look forward to hearing more about the amazing David Zikusoka and his political involvement and his call for action. Stay tuned.
but in the United States of America. It is now my hope and our task to set this country on a course that will keep this promise alive in the 21st century. And the eyes of the world are watching to see if we can. You know, there's a young man on my campaign whose grandfather lives in Uganda. He's 81 years old. He has never experienced true democracy in his lifetime. During the reign of Idi Amin, he was literally hunted, and the only reason that he escaped was thanks to the kindness of others and a few good-sized trunks. And on the night of the Iowa caucuses, that 81-year-old man stayed up until 5 in the morning, huddled by his television, waiting for the results of an election on the other side of the world. The world is watching what we do here. The world is paying attention to how we conduct ourselves, what we say, how we treat one another. What will they see? What will we tell them? What will we show them? Can we come together across party and region, race and religion to restore prosperity and opportunity as the birthright of every American? Can we lead the community of nations in taking on the common threats of the 21st century, terrorism and climate change, genocide and disease? Can we send a message to all those weary travelers beyond our shores who long to be free from fear and want that the United States of America is and always will be the last best hope on earth? We say, we hope, we believe. Yes, we can. Thank you, San Antonio. God bless you.
Welcome back, everyone, to the African Diaspora Grassroots Voting. And as we have today, we continue to enjoy ourselves with David Zikusoka, who has been part of campaigns and continues to be part of everything that this great country stands for in terms of pushing for you to exercise your civic duty, as well as our national security and all that stuff. David, I mean, we just heard former President Barack Obama mention you during a campaign, mentioned your grandfather watching the caucuses, as well as the world is watching whatever decision America makes. Doesn't it feel like it continues to be the same thing right now? And
yeah, it does.
You know, what did you feel when you first had that moment, and then when you listen to that clip again, and in this current election season?
Yeah, well, you know, it was pretty incredible. I remember at the time of the Iowa caucus, I was in South Carolina, and we were preparing for the primary in South Carolina that was going to be a few weeks later. And that night we all stayed up. Of course, you know, we worked late every night on the campaign, but we had the TV on that night to watch the Iowa caucus come in. And when those results started coming in, Obama gave his speech. My grandfather called me on my cell phone, and we just had a really emotional conversation about that. You know, to see that clip right now, it just reminds you that when it comes to American politics, this nation has a lot of power. This nation has a lot of impact in the world, and it really it matters to everyone on earth, the political decisions that we make. And of course, we've seen that with this administration and the decisions that it's made, whether they're at home or abroad. Our decisions in this country, they reverberate around the world, And that's why it's so important that our government and our government's decisions are representative of the will of the people. And when I say the will of the people, I'm talking about everyone. I'm talking about all of our citizens, and and to make sure that we all vote, that we all get involved to make sure that this nation's impact is representative of what we want it to look like and what we want it to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, during the first Obama campaign, the youth were more inspired for the 2008 election than they are now. Please shed light on that.
Sure. Well, I think at the end of the Bush administration, a lot of young people were really frustrated with what had taken place over the last 8 years. They were frustrated about the wars that seemed to be without end. They were frustrated, of course, about the state of the economy. There was the recession happening. There are a lot of people who were coming of age, who were turning 18, or who were coming out of college, who were looking at what lied ahead for them, and they were worried about their future. They were worried about whether or not they'd have the same opportunities as their parents, or hopefully more opportunities than their parents had. And I would argue that we're seeing that again in 2020. There have been a number of issues from the economy to this pandemic and its impact to climate change, and of course to racism, that are demonstrating what happens when we don't all vote, when our leaders don't actually represent how people feel and the things that people want. So I would argue that in 2020, I would hope that there are going to be a lot of youth who want to get involved. And of course, the candidate is important. Barack Obama's candidacy and now Joe Biden's candidacy to carry that legacy, to move that legacy forward, has an impact. But I think also those things happening in your lives, those things happen that you can feel and see around you, I think are inspiring people to get involved.
Yes. And that takes us to the voter conversion. There's hype, and then there's actually going to the polls. What can be done now and leading up to the presidential elections to galvanize the youth? What call of action would you recommend?
Sure. Well, I would tell people to go to the websites of the candidates that they support and to find out how to volunteer. That's how this starts. There are so many ways to get involved. And from where I was in 2007 and 2008, the technology we had at the time seemed pretty high-tech, and the Obama campaign was engaging on Facebook. We had all these databases that we could use, and every weekend during the campaign, we would print out these stacks and stacks of papers, and these would be the packets that we'd send our volunteers out with, and they'd have maps, and they'd go knock on doors, and they'd check the boxes of who they were able to see and who they couldn't see, so on and so forth. And that's all changed now. It's all digital. It's all on your phone. So it's that easy. If you have a smartphone, if you have a computer, you can go to these websites for candidates, and you're able to engage right from there. You can make phone calls from your couch. You can send texts, and it's important to engage in this because contact with voters is how we make up those margins to make sure that especially in those important swing states that we're not losing a whole election. For example, in 2016, by 80,000 votes spread across 3 states. There are all sorts of problems in this country we have to fix with gerrymandering, with voter suppression, etc. So the problem of 80,000 voters is a problem that we can tackle in part with good organizing, with enough volunteers who can make contact with people to make sure that they're aware of how to vote, that they have the right information on where to vote, to make it as straightforward as possible, because there have been so many roadblocks put up by efforts at voter
But do you
suppression to
recommend
make
they
it as
check with
straightforward as
their,
possible to vote.
well, I mean,
I'm
sorry,
sorry?
do you recommend that they check with the different states because different states have different rules, or
Yeah,
are there central
yeah.
websites that they could go to?
So I don't know off the top of my head, but I know the Democratic National Committee on their website, they have information about that. There's another website called Ballotpedia. So it's Ballotpedia, kind of like Wikipedia. That is a nonpartisan organization, and they have information on voting, and you'll be able to go to your state. I think you're able actually to enter in your zip code, and it'll give you the information that you need to know how to vote, where to vote, the different laws for your state. Because yes, you're right. There are 50 states worth of different kinds of laws and rules and dates and regulations that you need to be aware of. But there's a lot of great content on the internet that makes it straightforward. And it's important to get this stuff because I was just listening today to a controversy in Michigan where there's an effort to give voters the wrong information. It's been going on in Michigan today. They've been doing robocalls to voters to tell people that if they vote, they might get entered into a database and forced to have a vaccination that's not been tested. All sorts of crazy things are out there. But there are good, trustworthy websites out there that you can go to get the right information.
Thanks for that piece of advice and sharing your insights, because I believe this is information is key. People need to know, because sometimes people don't know where to find this information, and sometimes it could be ignorance. That, I mean, I know there's a saying that ignorance is no defense, but sometimes it's out of lack of knowledge, lack of information, that people sit back and do nothing. And in this case, we are looking at two different situations. When I think of you, I'm thinking about the youth, how to get them, talking to the youth directly, as well as those people who have the ability to galvanize the youth.
Mm-hmm. So I think what I would say to the youth and the people, who want to get out there to get involved is that time is short. We've seen what can happen after 4 years of this sort of government, and it remains to be seen how much worse things can get if they got another 4 years of this. The issues that are on the table, whether it's climate change, whether it's race, whether it's education and healthcare, they're just far too urgent. And I think this pandemic has exposed how many cracks there are in our system, and our nation is in dire need of better support. Whether it's unemployment support for people who are still not working because of the pandemic, whether it's health care for people who have been affected by this pandemic, and of course, obviously, the issues of race that have been going on this week, which have again brought it back, to the forefront in our national conversation. We can't let time run out before we get this right. And just speaking from my experience as a young person, although obviously I'm getting a bit older, I've been involved in this for a little bit now. I want to make sure that what we leave behind, that our legacy to this world is still behind this place better than we found it. That's why young people should get involved.
Yeah, because some people have this. Some people may have this attitude. Well, it doesn't directly affect me. Well, it does. It affects your generations to come. And it's like people who don't fill out the census forms.
Yes, that's a great point. Yeah, exactly.
They don't realize all these things. It's like a little thing, it piles up, and then you wonder why you have no voice. You can either be part of the menu or be part of the decision, become a taker, at the table.
Exactly. Yeah.
God. Oh my goodness. I mean, I've just enjoyed talking to you about all this stuff because I think it's going to touch several people's lives. I mean, it's so insightful. One of the things, what do we expect this election cycle? What should we expect this election?
I think, we're traditionally for campaigns from Labor Day to Election Day in November is the final sprint. So there's already been all sorts of coverage of the election so far, but expect there to be a lot more. So, if you live in a state if you live in a swing state, you're going to see more ads on TV. You're going to see the candidates out there a lot more. And you're going to see more misinformation. You're going to see more interference. You're going to see more things that are going to
pay attention.
Yes, exactly. You're going to see more things that are going to try to keep you from actually showing up to vote. And so, in terms of what to watch for this cycle, it's to remain vigilant and to remain on course to make sure that not only are you voting, but that you're making sure people around you are registered to vote, people you care about, and if you have the time, if you have the resources, to also volunteer.
Yes, and also if you are not for some people with absentee who face language barriers, there's a recommendation to get the absentee ballots so that you can fill it out.
Yeah. So if you're able to get an absentee ballot, if you're able to do mail-in voting, that's a great way to vote. Of course, there have been all the controversies in the last few weeks with the Postal Service, but states are now aware of the issues the Postal Service is having, and they're coming up with alternative means to submit your ballot. So while you may receive your ballot,
avoiding procrastination.
Exactly. Yeah. Avoiding procrastination. When you get it, fill it out. There are other ways to submit your ballots now. You're able to drop them off directly at your local election office. There are going to be boxes where you'll be able to drop your ballot that are separate from the mail system to make sure that they get to the counters on time. So, as with a lot of these problems, and from my experience in the campaign, when you encounter a hurdle, when you encounter something that looks like it's going to be tough, it's going to make it harder, you just organize. You just get organized. And you find a way to adapt your systems and your processes to get around that problem, to defeat that problem. And you just keep charging forward.
Wow. And how have the events around racial injustice as well as COVID-19 had an impacting this election cycle?
Well, I think we're seeing some different reactions and contrasts from last week with the Democratic convention to this week with the Republican convention, and how the two parties regard what's going on. I think personally, as a Black person in America, of course, the issues of race are front of mind, and the pandemic is also front of mind because it disproportionately affects people of color. And again, it exposes the cracks in our system, the problems with our institutions, and our inability to achieve equal and equitable outcomes for all Americans. And I think they both kind of underline the urgency of getting this election right, because there are people and there are lives that are counting on this government doing a better job, and right now it's just not.
Thank you, David, for that information. I mean, how can we work together in the diaspora towards a common goal?
Yeah, I think I've worked in the national security community for over a decade now, and it's been interesting to see how the community talks about race and racism. And I think there are some lessons there for what the diaspora can do, and how we can we can make a difference. I think what we've seen is that when our house isn't in order here in America, when issues of race, when issues of inequality and discrimination are spinning out of control, the face that we show to the world and the things that we do in the world are similarly affected. You know, there's a global competition going on right now. They say between the United States and like-minded countries, and the various authoritarian countries of the world, and people are wondering, you know, is democracy on life support, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that we need to set the right example here in America to show that democracy can endure, democracy can survive, and there's an important role for diaspora to play in that, because we show that when you come to countries like this, when you come to democracies like this, there can be good outcomes, there can be a good future. The life that I've been able to lead is proof of that. You know, the unlikely stories that immigrants have had coming to this country and the incredible things they've been able to do show that our diaspora can thrive and survive under democracy. And I hope that we'll be able to demonstrate that once again in November. To make this a place people want to come to, people want to stay, and of course also a place, you know, that's able to have a positive impact on the countries that we came from.
Yes. I mean, so we all have to get involved in one way or the other. It's our country. We chose to be here, you know, and
right.
It's important that we do that. And that's one of the reasons, because sometimes people want to run for office, but they don't know where to start from. And it is listening to people like you who give hope that, you know what, you can be either can go into policy, or you can run for office. I mean, I don't know what your take on that is as well, on the other side of this coin.
Sure. Well, I think when it comes to running for office, I encourage people to think about it. You know, I've had a chance to be in the halls of power, from the White House to Capitol Hill to the Department of Defense, and it is a problem that the people making the decisions don't look like the actual makeup of our nation. It's important to get new and different voices into the room, because you bring with you the life and the experiences that you've had, and that's illuminating. You know, it's been shown that teams that are diverse perform better, and a more diverse government is going to perform better too. So to people who want to get involved in politics, I'll have to make a plug here. I've got some friends who I used to work with on the campaign who started a couple of really amazing organizations for people who want to run for office and have never done it before. They do all sorts of trainings and seminars. They have different fellowships, and, you know, they'll help you figure out fundraising and things like that. Yeah, it's wonderful. So there were two organizations that come to mind. There's one called The Arena, and there's another one called Square One.
Square.
Yep. And these organizations have already supported candidates who have gone on to win office. So there are people in Congress right now.
How remarkable.
Yeah, it's amazing. There are people in Congress right now who went to one of those meetings at Square One, who went to one of those summits with The Arena, and, you know, they did the work, they learned how it was done, and now they're having an impact on the fate of this country.
Wow, David, thank you so much for your, sparing time to come on the African Diaspora Grassroots Voting and sharing your insights from how you decided to join movements and campaigns, and then also your career path in policy, and also giving us an insight, especially as that young diasporan who's thinking of running for office, or who is thinking of taking a similar path because they have the same trajectory, or what we can do as diasporans typical American to vote or prepare for the elections, and and also being vigilant, paying attention, and being involved in volunteerism. I mean, David, what are your closing statements before?
Sure. I guess I would just close by saying that don't let anyone ever tell you that you're not part of this country, that you're not part of this country's story. This is your country too, and you have a right to have an impact on it. And don't listen to what the naysayers say. You are a real American, and you can help make this country better. You can help make this country match its character to the promises that were made in its founding documents. So get involved.
Wow. Thank you, David. I mean, this has been amazing, very insightful, and I would like to thank the audience for staying through this session, and I'm sure they've been inspired, and I can't wait to see you all next week for the edition of the African Grassroots Diaspora and Voting. As the adage says, the African adage says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I'm counting on you. I'm Busi Matsiko, and then your host, and I look forward to seeing you in the African Diaspora Grassroots Voting. And once again, thank you, David Zikusoka, for being an amazing guest. Bye-bye. Till then.
Thank you.
You can't miss this high-level pro-Africa USA-tied forum, Trade, Investment and Economic Development, which is the first in a series of high-level events on Afrocosmo mutual voices, shared knowledge and dialogue on substantive, innovative and practical solutions to current and emerging trade, investment and economic development issues in Africa and beyond. This event is hosted by Afrocosmo Development Impact LCC, Maryland, Squire Patton Boggs, LLP, Washington DC, and Afrique Today Digital TV, a two-time Quality Service Award winner. You can then state our full name and title and company with location, then also state day of event, etc. Theme: incentivization, formalization, and productivity of small and medium enterprises in Africa. COVID-19 and 2019 African Continental Free Trade Area. Moderator: Prudence Sebehizi, Chief Technical Advisor and Head of AFCFTA Negotiations Support Unit, Department of Trade and Industry, Commission Ethiopia. Co-moderator: Valentina Okaru Bisant, Professor Esquire, CEO Afrocosmo Development Impact LLC, Maryland, USA. Co-host: Frank Samolis, Esquire, Global Trade Partner and Co-Chair, Squire Patton Boggs, Washington, D.C., USA. Co-host. Featured speakers: Armando Manuel, the World Bank Executive Director, South Africa, Nigeria and Angola, and Washington, D.C. Matthew Gamza, CEO, SME Finance Forum International Finance Corporation, Washington, D.C. Mrs. Priscilla Ekweme Eleke, former, retired as of December 2019, and first Director of Currency Operations in the Central Bank of Nigeria. Mrs. Ifeoma Anagbogu, HE Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, Nigeria. Betty Oluwasina, MD and CEO, Capstone Microfinance Bank, MD, presenter, and Antonia Obeya, member of the Board of Directors of Capstone Microfinance Bank, attendee. Adeniki Adeyemi, Executive Director, Fate Foundation, Lagos, Nigeria. Rosemary Mburu, CEO, Institute of Trade Development, ITD, Kenya. Professor Ernest Ojukwu, Esquire, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Femi Oyedipe, Chief Executive, Lush Chocolate, Lagos, Nigeria. Vivian Chaplin, Esquire, Director, Corporate and Commercial Practice, Cliff Decker Hofmeyer, South Africa. BioLion Adedeki, MBA, Founder and CEO, Dundonation, Nigeria. Dr. Salifu N. Bishop, President and CEO, Vision Global, Inc., Maryland, USA. Koi Edu, Esquire, Managing Partner, Jackson, Eti and Edu, Nigeria. This event will be live on Afrique Today TV. Afrique Today, the best of digital TV.
En vue de performer vos compétences et intégrer l'espace de l'entrepreneuriat digital, la Nouvelle Chambre de Commerce Nationale et la Nouvelle Chambre de Commerce USA-RDC, en partenariat avec Diaspoara Academy, installée aux États-Unis d'Amérique, vous offrent des sessions de formation en entrepreneuriat digital à des coûts réduits. Ces formations vous permettront d'intégrer le monde numérique et améliorer vos compétences en digital au bénéfice de cette terre d'avenir et grand marché qu'est la République démocratique du Congo. Pour participer aux formations, envoyez vos contacts WhatsApp au +243 99 073 0795. Enregistrez-vous aujourd'hui car les places sont limitées. Diaspoara Academy, la plateforme des professionnels du digital.
ESYDA returned to play summer clinics. Recreation, Tuesday and Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. Travel team, EDP, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Time, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Free mask and water bottle. Register today at esyda.org. Email info@esyda. Phone 248-765-9369. Office 301-800-7848. Toll free 800-995-5532. Free registration for all summer clinics. All new players need buy uniforms. We're following COVID-19 soccer guidelines. Small group practice with 9 players and 1 coach. For more information, go to esyda.org.
Jamais, jamais, nous disons stop à la vente de nos terres. Jamais, jamais, ne cédons pas au chantage et belles paroles. L'héritage que nos ancêtres nous ont légué, c'est pas l'argent, les voitures et maisons. Pour assurer la survie de nos familles, c'est la forêt et la terre. sema eh misi bonu ni tehani ele bayo sema eh mako basia na ton mambo manyoko na be cafe na biko konone umo so mo sanga olia Toyanaka obonongo yosumise inundanga abonisa sakonane non à la vente des terres non à la vente des terres non à la vente des terres
Mokatu moti usunu ni fala abanisa Toyana kobonanga tobonanga salaba
Toba munu moti batokaka obusi
Élevons nos voix chantons sur tous les toits pour que demain soit plus clair. Si t'entends ma voix, la voix des sans-voix, ce qu'on a de plus cher, ce sont nos terres.
Toyanaka obonongo yosumise inundanga abonisa sakonane non à la vente des terres non à la vente des terres non à la vente des terres
une partie du peuple tout le temps et tout le peuple une partie du temps, mais on ne peut tromper tout le peuple tout le temps. Oui au développement, non à l'exode rural.
Diaspora Banen, chef traditionnel élite, fils et filles, que chacun apporte sa pierre à l'édifice. Mounani Moundamonte.
Non à la vente des terres. Non à la vente des terres. Non à la vente
Peuple Banen,
des terres.
tous nous sommes interpellés.
Non à la vente
Soyons unis.
des terres. Non à la vente.
Bonani petit me patenem. Mokatu moti fosuni pour l'ok. Monani foyer moi.
Nous remercions le collectif des artistes Banen et son président, Monsieur Écombile Vincent Olivier, pour sa lutte acharnée pour le réveil de la culture Banen.